Brother moved into my house when he lost his job, then I caught him and my wife having an affair while I was on work trips. Now she's pregnant and my parents want me to support all of them. Hello everyone. I'm not sure why I am writing this. Maybe I just need to put it out there. I am a 32-year-old man. The main people in this story are me, my wife, let's call her Sarah, she's 30, my younger brother, Tom, he's 27, and my parents. Sarah and I were married for 5 years. We lived in a house I bought before we got married. It was a nice house. 3 bedrooms, a small yard. Tom was always the favorite child, I think. My parents always seemed to give him more attention, more help. He was always a bit wild. I worked a job that sometimes needed me to travel for a week or 2 at a time. It was a good job, paid well. Sarah worked part-time. Things were mostly okay between Sarah and me. We had arguments like any couple, but nothing major. About a year ago, Tom lost his job. Again. He was living with my parents at the time. He's always had trouble keeping a job. My parents asked if he could stay with us for a bit. Just until he got back on his feet. I wasn't too happy about it. Tom and I were never very close. He was always a bit a taker, not a giver. But Sarah said it would be fine. She said it would be good for him to have some support. So, I agreed. Reluctantly. Tom stayed in our spare room. At first, it was okay. He said he was looking for work. He helped a little around the house. But then things started to change. I would come home from work, and Tom and Sarah would be laughing together, watching movies. It felt a bit like I was the outsider in my own home. I told myself I was just being jealous or tired from work. Then, my work trips started to get more frequent for a couple of months. I was away for 2 weeks, then home for a week, then away again for 10 days. It was a big project. It meant good money, a possible promotion. When I was home, Sarah seemed distant. She was on her phone a lot, texting. She said it was just her friends. Tom was still there. He said he was still looking for work, but I didn't see much effort. He was always there. Always in the house. I started to get a bad feeling. A really bad feeling. One time, I came home early from a trip. My flight got changed. I didn't tell Sarah. I wanted to surprise her. I got home in the afternoon. Her car was there, Tom's beat-up old car was there too. The house was quiet. I went inside. I found them in the kitchen. They were not doing anything wrong right then, just making coffee. But the way they jumped when I walked in. The way they looked at each other. It made my stomach churn. I asked Tom how the job hunt was going. He mumbled something about a few leads. Sarah quickly changed the subject, asking about my trip. I didn't say anything about my feeling. I told myself I was just imagining things. Before my next work trip, I decided to install a couple of security cameras inside the house. Small ones. Easy to hide. I did it when Sarah was out shopping one afternoon. I didn't tell her. I knew she would ask why, and I didn't have a good answer that wouldn't sound accusatory. Tom wasn't home. I felt a bit guilty doing it, like I was spying. But I had to know what was happening when I wasn't there. I put one in the living room and one in the kitchen, hidden on high shelves. They recorded to a cloud server I could access from my phone. I went on my next work trip. It was for 2 weeks. The first few days, I didn't check the cameras. I was busy with work. I tried to push the bad thoughts away. But on the 4th day, I couldn't resist. I logged in. I checked the living room camera. What I saw made me feel sick. It was Tom and Sarah. On my couch. They were kissing. Not just a small kiss. It was a long, passionate kiss. Then they started taking off their clothes. Right there. In my living room. I watched for a minute, maybe less. I couldn't breathe. I turned it off. I felt like I was going to throw up. My brother. My wife. In my house. I don't remember much about the rest of that day. I think I just sat in my hotel room, staring at the wall. I couldn't work. I couldn't eat. I kept seeing it in my head. The next day, I checked again. More of the same. They were acting like a couple. Holding hands, cuddling on the couch while watching TV. Tom was wearing my bathrobe. They were cooking meals together in my kitchen, sleeping in my bed. I knew this because the bedroom door was open once, and I saw them. They were living like a happy couple. In my life. I saved the videos. I saved a lot of them. I had days of proof. I didn't say anything to them. I didn't call. I didn't text. I finished my work trip. It was the longest 2 weeks of my life. Every day I felt a rage building inside me, but also a strange coldness. I knew what I had to do. When I got back, I went to the house. I didn't tell them I was coming. It was a weekday, mid-morning. I figured they would be there. And they were. I walked in. They were in the kitchen, having breakfast. Laughing while she was sitting on his lap. They froze when they saw me. Sarah's face went white. Tom looked angry, then scared. "What are you doing here?" Tom asked. He actually asked me that. In my own house. "I live here," I said. My voice was very calm. Or at least I used to. Sarah started to cry. "It's not what you think," she said. The classic line. "Oh, I think it is," I said. "I think you two have been having a great time while I've been away working." Tom stood up. He tried to look tough. "So what if we have?" he said. "She doesn't love you anymore. She loves me." I looked at Sarah. She just kept crying. "Is that true, Sarah?" I asked. She nodded, still looking down. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean for you to find out like this." "How did you mean for me to find out?" I asked. "Or were you just going to keep living in my house, with my brother, while I paid for everything?" Neither of them said anything. Then I told them about the cameras. I told them I had videos. I saw the panic in their eyes. Tom started shouting then. Calling me names. Saying I was a creep for filming them. Sarah just sobbed harder. I told them I wanted them out. Both of them. Out of my house. Now. Tom lunged at me. He threw a punch. He's always had a temper. I dodged it. I didn't want to fight him. Not then. I just wanted them gone. He tried to hit me again, but he was clumsy. He tripped over a chair and fell, hitting his arm on the table. He started howling, holding his arm. Sarah rushed to him, ignoring me. "Get out," I said again, quietly. "Pack your things and get out." Sarah helped Tom up. He was still cursing me, saying his arm was broken. It wasn't, he was just being dramatic. They went to the bedroom, my bedroom, and started throwing things into bags. It took them about an hour. I sat in the living room and waited. The whole time, I could hear Sarah crying and Tom muttering threats. When they were ready to leave, Sarah stopped in front of me. I don't know what to say," she said. "There's nothing to say," I replied. "Just leave." They left. I watched them drive away in Tom's old car. Then I locked the door. I walked through my house. It felt dirty. Tainted. The next day, my parents called. I knew they would. Tom and Sarah had obviously gone straight to them. My mother started yelling at me before I could even say hello. How could I throw my own brother out onto the street? How could I be so cruel to Sarah? I tried to explain. I told them what happened. My father got on the phone. He was calmer, but his words were just as bad. He said Tom and Sarah were in love. He said these things happen. He said Sarah was a good girl and Tom was finally settling down. He said they had nowhere to go. Then came the part that made me see red. My mother got back on the phone and said, "You have to support them. You have that big house. You have a good job. They are just starting out. They are a new family." I was stunned. "Support them?" I asked. "You want me to pay for my wife and my brother to live together after they did this to me?" "Don't be selfish," my father said. "Tom is your brother. Sarah is. Well, she's family. You need to do the right thing." The right thing? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The right thing would have been for my brother not to sleep with my wife in my house. The right thing would have been for my wife to be honest with me. The argument went on for a long time. They called me selfish, heartless, unforgiving. They didn't seem to care at all about what Tom and Sarah had done to me. They only cared about Tom and his new relationship. I told them I was filing for divorce. My mother started crying. My father told me to think about it, not to be hasty. He even suggested that maybe I was partly to blame for being away so much. I hung up on them. I couldn't listen anymore. I hired a lawyer the same day. The next few weeks were a blur of anger and paperwork. I changed the locks on the house. I started the divorce proceedings. Tom and Sarah were living with my parents. My parents called me every few days, sometimes yelling, sometimes pleading for me to be reasonable and help Tom and Sarah financially. They wanted me to give Sarah the house, or at least a lot of money. They said Tom couldn't support her. Of course he couldn't. It's been about 3 months now since I kicked them out. The divorce is moving forward. We had one mediation session. Sarah was there with her lawyer. Tom was waiting outside, like some kind of bodyguard. My parents were there too, trying to talk to my lawyer, trying to talk to me. I ignored them. Sarah didn't ask for much in the mediation. She just looked broken. She agreed to a simple division of assets, what little we had jointly. The house was mine from before the marriage, so she had no claim on it. My lawyer was good. He made sure of that. Then, last week, something new happened. My lawyer called me. Sarah's lawyer had contacted him. Sarah is pregnant. She's a few months along. Which means she got pregnant before I kicked her out. While I was on one of my work trips. Or maybe right after I got back, before I found out. The timing is very close. She says the baby could be mine. My parents are ecstatic. They called me immediately. Now they are saying this changes everything. This is a sign. We have to get back together for the baby. They said it's God's will. They are pushing even harder for me to support Sarah, and by extension, Tom. They say Tom will be a great uncle dad or something ridiculous. They want me to stop the divorce. They want me to let Sarah and Tom move back into my house. For the baby's sake. My head is spinning. A baby. If it's mine. I always wanted to be a father. But not like this. Not with her. And definitely not with Tom and my parents involved in this twisted way. My lawyer says we need a paternity test. Of course. I agreed. Sarah has apparently agreed too. She insists it's mine. The dilemma is, my parents are making my life hell. They are calling my work. They are calling my friends. They are telling everyone I am abandoning my pregnant wife, soon to be ex-wife, and my child. They are painting me as the villain. They are demanding I provide for their new family unit as they call it, which means Sarah, the baby, and Tom. They want me to give them money, a place to live, everything. They say if I don't, they will make sure everyone knows what a horrible person I am. Tom has been sending me threatening texts. Things like you'll pay for this and that baby needs a real home. I'm not going to get back with Sarah. That's out of the question. The divorce will proceed. But what do I do about this? About my parents? About Tom? If the baby is mine, I know I have a responsibility. But I don't want these people in my life. My parents think I should forgive and forget, and just open my wallet and my home to all of them. They think I should let Tom play dad to my kid while I pay the bills. Am I wrong to want to cut them all off as much as possible, even if it means a huge fight? I just feel so stuck and angry. Any advice on how to handle my parents and this whole financial demand, especially with a baby possibly in the picture? Update 1. Hi everyone. It's been about 2 months since my original post. First, thank you for all the comments and messages. I read a lot of them. Many of you shared similar stories, or just offered support. It helped to know I wasn't crazy for feeling the way I did. A lot of you asked for more details about the confrontation and my parents' behavior. I'll try to clarify some things. Many people asked if Tom actually hurt himself when he fell. No, he didn't break his arm. He had a bruise. He went to the doctor the next day. My parents probably made him to build a case or get sympathy, and it was just a bad sprain. He wore a sling for a week for dramatic effect. Some asked if Sarah said anything to defend herself during the confrontation. Not really. She cried a lot and said I'm sorry a few times. When Tom lunged at me, she yelled Tom, no. But she didn't try to stop him physically. After he fell, her attention was all on him. When I told them to pack, she just nodded and helped Tom. It was clear her loyalty was with him. Regarding my parents, their campaign to make me the bad guy ramped up. They called my boss. My boss is a reasonable guy and knows me well, so he listened to my side and basically told my parents to stop harassing his employee. They sent a long email to my aunt and uncle, my dad's brother, painting me as a monster. My aunt actually called me, and I explained the whole story. She was horrified at my parents and Tom's behavior and has been supportive of me. That was one small good thing. A common piece of advice was to get a really good lawyer. I have one. He's very direct and no nonsense. He's been a rock. He was the one who pushed for the paternity test to be done through official channels, no home kits. After reading comments and talking to my lawyer, I became more determined. Your support helped me see that their demands were insane. My parents' argument that I should support Tom because he is with Sarah and my potential child made no sense. Tom is an adult. He made his choices. Sarah made hers. The main thing I thought about was the baby. If the child was mine, I knew I wanted to be in its life. But I also knew I could not let my parents, Tom, or even Sarah use the child to control or manipulate me. The comments about parental alienation were scary. I knew I had to be proactive. My lawyer advised me to document everything. I started a log. The decision was clear. 1. Confirm paternity. 2. If the child is mine, fight for full custody when the child is born, or at least primary custody with very strict boundaries for Sarah and zero access/influence from Tom and my parents regarding my relationship with my child. 3. Completely cut off my parents and Tom financially and emotionally. Burn every bridge they thought they could use. 4. Finalize the divorce as quickly as possible. After those decisions, my actions were pretty clear. The paternity test was scheduled. It was a tense appointment. Sarah was there. Tom waited outside, pacing like a caged animal. My parents also showed up and tried to talk to me in the waiting room. I ignored them. I just looked straight ahead. My lawyer had advised me not to engage with them. Sarah looked stressed. She said, very quietly, "It's yours." "I know it is." I didn't reply. The results came back 2 weeks later. My lawyer called me. "The baby is mine." A wave of something went through me. Not joy. Not exactly sadness. Just a heavy feeling. A responsibility. This was real. I was going to be a father. My lawyer began preparing all the necessary paperwork to file for full custody immediately after the child's birth. As soon as paternity was legally confirmed, we formally notified Sarah's lawyer of our firm intention to seek full custody once the baby was born. We clearly outlined our reasons: Sarah's adultery, her current unstable living situation, living with my parents, dependent on Tom who is unemployed, Tom's aggressive behavior, I had records of his threatening texts and the incident where he attacked me, and my parents' manipulative and harassing behavior. We made it clear we believed these factors made her unable to provide a stable and healthy environment, contrasting this with my stable home, good job, and supportive network. The next step was cutting ties. My parents called me, crying and yelling when they found out about our stated intention to file for custody and the reasons why. My father said, "How dare you plan to take her baby away? After everything you've done?" I said, "It's my baby too. And I will not let that child grow up in the mess you've all created. We will be filing as soon as the baby is born." My mother screamed that I was an unnatural son, a monster. She said, "You will regret this. Tom will be a father to that child. He already loves it." I said, "Tom will have no legal rights and will stay away from my child. And so will you, if you continue this way." Then I told them that I would no longer be taking their calls. I told them that any communication about essential family matters, like health emergencies of other relatives not involved, should go through my aunt. For anything regarding the baby and the upcoming legal actions, Sarah's lawyer could contact my lawyer. I told them I was blocking their numbers. And I did. I sent Tom a cease and desist letter through my lawyer, warning him that any further threats or harassment would be reported to the police and would be used in the future custody case. His response was an angry voicemail. He called from a friend's phone, full of curses and saying I wouldn't get away with this and that he'd see me in court. My lawyer saved it as more evidence of his unsuitable character. I also changed my phone number. Only a few people have the new one. I informed my bank about the situation, in case my parents or Tom tried anything funny. I moved my main accounts to a new bank. I made it clear to my wider family through my aunt that I was no longer in contact with my parents or Tom, and I explained briefly why. Most were shocked but understood, but I don't care anymore. Sarah, through her lawyer, responded to the custody filing. She is fighting for primary custody, of course. She claims she will get her own place and a job. She claims Tom is supportive and will help her. She also said I was never home, and that's why she turned to Tom. Her lawyer is trying to paint me as an absent husband, now trying to be an overly controlling father. The court ordered a temporary arrangement. Since the baby isn't born yet, this is mostly about planning. We have to go to mediation for custody. The judge looked at the initial evidence, like Tom's threats and my parents' harassment, and issued a temporary restraining order against Tom having any contact with me, and a stern warning to my parents about their interference, to be reviewed once the baby is born and a more permanent custody plan is decided. My parents are furious. My aunt told me they are beside themselves. They can't believe I actually cut them off. They tried to get other family members to pressure me, but my aunt is running interference and telling them to back off. Sarah is apparently very stressed. Her lawyer is pushing her to appear stable, so she's supposedly looking for a job and an apartment. I doubt Tom is helping. He's probably making it worse. He's likely raging about the restraining order and the fact he can't get to me. The divorce is still proceeding. It's messy. It's expensive. It's exhausting. The last conversation I had directly with Sarah was her lawyer arranging a brief call. She was crying. She said, "Mark, please. Don't do this. Don't take my baby. I know I messed up. I'm so sorry. But he's all I have left." I told her, This is not about what you have left, Sarah. This is about what's best for my child. And that is not being around Tom, or my parents' toxic games. We will let the court decide. She started to plead, but I ended the call. I have to be strong. I cannot let her emotions sway me. The house is quiet now. I'm focusing on getting ready for the baby, as much as I can. I'm also preparing for a very ugly fight in court. I know they will try every dirty trick. But I'm ready. I'm not sure what the future holds. But I know I won't be a doormat anymore. I won't let them walk all over me or use my child. Update 2. It's been almost a 2.5 since my last update. A lot has happened. The baby, a boy named Daniel, was born about 10 months ago. The baby, a boy named Daniel, was born about a year ago. As planned, the moment he was born and his birth legally registered, my lawyer filed our petition for full legal and primary physical custody. The legal battles that followed were as bad as I expected, maybe worse. The divorce itself was finalized about a year ago. It was pretty straightforward in the end, as we didn't have many joint assets, and the house was premarital. The adultery clause, with my video evidence, made her position weak for claiming any spousal support, which she tried for at one point, likely pressured by Tom and my parents. The custody battle for Daniel was brutal. Sarah's lawyer, as expected, argued heavily that as Daniel was a newborn and Sarah intended to breastfeed, she should have primary physical custody for at least the first few years. They tried to paint me as a work-obsessed, emotionally unavailable man who would be an unfit single parent, and that taking a newborn from his mother would be detrimental. They brought up how much I traveled for work historically. They tried to say I was vindictive. My lawyer was excellent. We countered by emphasizing that while breastfeeding was a factor, the paramount concern was Daniel's safety, stability, and long-term well-being. We presented all the evidence, the videos of the affair, showcasing her poor judgment and deceit, Tom's threatening messages, his aggressive behavior, including the new contempt charge he got for an outburst in court during a preliminary hearing, the recorded voicemail, my parents' relentless harassment and their attempts to subvert my role as a father. We had a child psychologist provide expert testimony on the potential harm to a child raised in an unstable environment with individuals like Tom and my parents exerting influence. The psychologist also outlined how a secure attachment could be formed with a father providing primary care, and how breastfeeding could be supported through visitation and expressed milk if Sarah was cooperative and stable. The court proceedings were long and draining. Sarah would often break down in tears. Tom would be in the courtroom gallery, scowling, until his contempt charge limited his presence. My parents were there every day, looking at me with hatred. They tried to approach me several times in the hallways, but my lawyer always stepped in. The judge took Sarah's arguments about newborn care seriously but was equally, if not more, concerned by the overwhelming evidence of instability and potential harm. Initially, the judge was hesitant to completely separate a newborn from his mother if she was willing to breastfeed. So, the court ordered a highly conditional, temporary step-up plan for the first 3 months. Sarah would have primary physical care of Daniel only if she met extremely strict conditions. 1. She had to secure and maintain stable, independent housing away from Tom and my parents within 2 weeks. This housing had to be approved by a court-appointed social worker. 2. Tom was to have absolutely no contact with Daniel or Sarah, and a restraining order was reinforced. 3. My parents were also to have no contact with Daniel, and their contact with Sarah was to be minimal and not involve Daniel or undermining my role. 4. Sarah had to attend mandatory parenting classes, individual therapy, and cooperate fully with a home visit social worker. 5. I was granted very frequent, liberal visitation, including overnight as Daniel got a bit older, to foster bonding. I was to be involved in all medical decisions. Child support for me was established. This was Sarah's chance to prove she could provide a stable environment. She managed to find a small apartment. However, within the first month, it became clear she couldn't or wouldn't meet all conditions. The social worker reported that my parents were frequently at her apartment, despite the warnings. There was an incident where Tom was seen in the vicinity of her apartment, a clear violation. Sarah missed therapy sessions. She struggled to manage on her own, and it was clear she was still heavily influenced by Tom and my parents, who were likely telling her the court's conditions were unfair. My lawyer filed for an emergency review. After reviewing the social worker's reports and hearing about Tom's violation, the judge concluded that Sarah was unable to protect Daniel from the harmful influences or provide the required stability, even with court support. The temporary order was dissolved. In the end, after this failed trial period, I was granted sole legal custody and primary physical custody of Daniel. The judge cited Sarah's failure to adhere to the conditional order, her continued poor judgment, her lack of stable independent functioning, the ongoing risk posed by Tom, and the disruptive influence of my parents. The judge stated that while maternal bonding for a newborn is important, it cannot come at the expense of the child's safety and exposure to a chaotic, unhealthy environment. Sarah gets supervised visitation. The supervision is done by a professional service, at her expense. This was a key point my lawyer fought for and won. This is to ensure Daniel's safety and to prevent her from being pressured by Tom or my parents during her time with him. Initially, it was twice a week for a few hours. She could breastfeed Daniel during these visits if she wished. She has to follow strict rules. No Tom. No my parents. If she violates the conditions, she loses visitation. As for Tom, the restraining order I got against him was made more permanent regarding contact with me and Daniel. He is not to come within 500 feet of me, my home, my workplace, or Daniel's daycare. His documented threats, his outburst in court leading to a contempt charge, and his violation of the conditions around Sarah's temporary care arrangement pretty much sealed his fate regarding any future arguments about him being a responsible caregiver. My parents are completely cut off. After the final custody ruling, they tried to send messages through my aunt, saying I had destroyed the family and stolen their grandchild after setting Sarah up to fail. My aunt told them I wanted no contact. They even tried showing up at my house once. I had a new security system with cameras all around the property. I called the police, and they were given a warning for trespassing. They haven't tried again. I hear from my aunt that they are bitter and angry. They blame me for everything. They tell everyone who will listen how I've wronged them. My relationship with them is non-existent. It's a strange feeling. Like a weight is gone, but there's also an empty space. I've settled into a routine with Daniel. Being a single dad is hard, much harder than I imagined, but he is a wonderful little boy. He's healthy, he's happy. I adjusted my work schedule. I now work from home 3 days a week, and I have a great nanny for the days I go into the office. My aunt is a huge help. She adores Daniel and comes over often. She's like a grandmother to him. Sarah has been attending her supervised visits. From what the supervisor's reports say, my lawyer gets copies. She is usually quiet and sad. She plays with Daniel. She cried when she had to leave. She did try to breastfeed during visits for the first few months, but eventually stopped. I think it was too hard emotionally for her under supervision. She has apparently found a part-time job at a supermarket. She still lives in that small apartment with a roommate, not Tom. I heard through the grapevine, my aunt heard from another relative, that her relationship with Tom completely imploded after she lost primary care of Daniel and he realized no money or benefits would flow from her having the baby. He blamed her for messing up the plan. There was apparently a huge fight, and my parents finally kicked Tom out after he got aggressive with them too when they wouldn't give him more money. Last I heard, Tom is couch surfing and still unemployed. He still tries to badmouth me online using fake profiles, but my lawyer has dealt with a few of those as harassment. I started going to therapy to deal with the anger and the betrayal. It helps a little. Mostly, I focus on Daniel. He is my priority. My life is very different now. I don't date. I don't have much of a social life. But I have my son. Thank you to everyone who read my story and offered support and advice back then. It meant a lot during a very dark time. The drama isn't entirely over. I'm sure Sarah will try to modify the custody agreement eventually, but I will see to it when the time comes. That's all I can do. Goodbye.
Did you enjoy my story? What a journey it has been. I truly wonder, what would you have done if you were in my shoes? Would you have chosen silence to keep the peace, or would you have done what I did to reclaim your dignity? Let's meet in the comments below. I'm so curious to hear your thoughts. I'm reading every single one. Which city are you listening from tonight? If my story resonated with you, you can support me and help me bring more stories like this to the world by sending a super thanks. Your sweet support means the world to me and allows me to continue this journey with all of you. On the screen now, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend you watch next. There are so many more on my channel, each with its own lessons and triumphs. Don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell so you never miss a new chapter. Thank you for being here with me. Until the next story, with love and respect.